Recording in progress.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, honorable members and everyone on the platform and the minister and your team. Good morning. I guess we can start. Probably before we do that, Ms. Valerie, do we have a quorum?
Yes, Chairperson, the meeting corrects. There are now 7 members present.
Okay, thank you very much. And good morning, honorable members and the minister and your team once more again, and our colleagues, which include our committee support and everybody who had an interest in taking trouble to join us. Our meeting has got only 2 agenda items. Probably let's deal with the housekeeping matters. We have received 2 apologies. One that I'm clear about, it's Honorable DM has apologized. And who else? Ms. V, who has apologized, which I might have omitted from your side. If you
There was an apology from the minister that I forwarded this morning. The minister is attending the aviation conference. And then from the member side, I've only received an apology from Mr. Sitole, who is attending the Portfolio Committee on Tourism this morning.
Okay, but did the minister mandated somebody to lead the delegation?
The office of the DG is locked in, Chairperson, so I'm not sure who will be leading the delegation this.
No, that's fine. Honorable members, are the apologies noted and accepted, those ones which have got reasons? I see no hand, I guess.
Apologies accepted, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mangete. Thank you so much. Honorable members, I am in one piece. It has been a very psychologically traumatizing experience. Nevertheless, thank my God and my ancestors, I'm in one piece. And thank you for all those members who wished me a safe and a speedy emotional recovery. And a big thank you for those ones also who took trouble to phone me directly. Honorable Hansinga, I really honestly, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate your several calls that you made. You have demonstrated that we might be belonging to different political parties. However, human beings at the end of the day are human beings. And when we work together, we tend to be partially family as it were. I really appreciate your several calls and also all those members, including those ones who were passive, that they were with me, and I am in one piece indeed. 100% in one piece, emotionally and mentally and otherwise. And thank you, Honorable Ramadwa, for also holding the fort on my behalf. And thanks to those members who agreed that you did that on my behalf, as mandated by Parliament. And thanks once more. Honorable members, Honorable Hinsinga, what I'm saying in Zulu or Xhosa is that do what you have done to me, to others as well. And may God bless you, all of you guys. Thank you very much. Other than that, we'll quickly then, by indication, introduce your good self, the leader of the delegation on behalf of the minister. And I'm sorry that I am unable to say whether it's a DG or DDG, but you know your good self and you are most welcome. And may you take us through the briefing on the festive season, on road safety plan that you have planned, and which will take us from December, which is a peak season, until January. And as we all know that December, everybody is looking forward to say, are we safe on the road, or what are the plans if anything happens for the road users, as it were. Or I can now recognize DG. Over to you, Advocate. I can see your face now. You are most welcome. And indeed, you are the leader and properly the leader of the delegation. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Morning. Thank you,
before that, Mr. DG, may I have just checked? I recognize Honorable Mabena. Your hand is up. My apology for that, for just cruising without checking the board here. Over to you, Honorable Mabena. Thank you very much.
No, Chair, no, it's fine. I think I was a bit in the dark, but Honorable Chris Ansing sent me a message, so I don't know what. We're glad that we are fine, we're in one piece, and yeah, man, it's you. Yeah, I think we're happy that we are fine because I was not in the meeting. Nonetheless, I also want to check with Honorable Bange. I think Ari has got a special code there, 026726. I don't know whether the code is from you gave him the chairperson, but maybe when you give your ANC members chair, you must also think about us. Because I don't know what is that 026726 thingy, but don't exclude us. You must also include us.
No. Honorable.
Comrade Mabena, I'm the NC member. I don't have that code.
No, that's fine. Honorable Mabena, for now, let's keep it to Mangete, not to everybody. Ne? Don't include everybody on that. It's not one jacket fits all. Definitely rest assured, as the member of the committee, if there are any changes, then you will be included. You are not going to be left as outside. With that, honorable members, do allow me to request the DG to lead us on his presentation on behalf of the Minister and the Department. Over to you, Advocate. And thank you, Honorable Mabena, once more.
I think mine is really just to foreground the presentation. I think on the platform we should have the Deputy Director General for Road Transport, Chris Lavisa, but with him, our entity that leads all our efforts on road safety, the Road Traffic Management Corporation. I'm hoping the CEO and the team are here. But I think it's important just to point out that also on the platform are various colleagues who are heads of departments in the provinces, because the work we are going to be rolling out involves full coordination with the respective provinces. My apologies, am I not audible?
You are quite audible and visible as well, DG.
All right. No. Thank you very much, Chair. So I think without further ado, I hope that in the presentation, it will come through what efforts we are trying to do to nuance the program so that we have better impact. But I think I'll leave that to the presentation and we'll engage with the committee on the presentation at the right time. So with your permission, Chair, I would like to defer to DG Hlabisa and the team to please make the presentation on our behalf. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Advocate. Dr. Hlabisa, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Chairperson and honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. I do have, thank you, DG. Thank you very much. I think what we do now, we are going to put across to the to RTMC. This has been a concerted effort, I must say that, concerted effort between among all 5 entities that are road-based, which is RTMC, RTIA, RAF, SANRAL, as well as CPRTA. All of them, they came together and they did indeed put together the presentation and the foregrounding, which our advocate has spoken about. Insofar as what are we going to be doing in terms of the plan for the festive season and beyond. So what I'll ask, therefore, because the lead agency on road safety is RTMC, we have asked RTMC to lead us on this one. And Advocate Msibi, who is the CEO of RTMC, I was speaking to him. They've logged onto the platform here, and I will request that he leads the presentation as prepared. So thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. DG, I will hand over to Advocate Msibi to take us through the details of the presentation with his team. which have been prepared. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you.
No, before Advocate Msini, Mr. DG, don't hand over and somebody to hand over and somebody to hand over. In future, if you may just tie it up, if you foreground for on behalf of the minister and the department, technically, it will be advisable that you just hand over to that, because we know that this work is a multidisciplinary work. But also, I welcome all the provinces that have locked in on behalf of their MECs and their legislatures. And thank you very much for the good work. But I thought I must comment, because I thought Untate Hlalisa will just go through directly to the presentation, and now he's also handing over. I hope then the CEO, Advocate Msini, is not going to do the same. Over to you, Untate Msini. Advocate Msini. I can see everybody in the boardroom there.
Are we visual and audible, Chair?
Yes, now you are audible, but very far.
Maybe let me come closer to the mic, Chair.
If you may.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, the Director General, as well as the colleagues in the platform and all members of the NRCC.
And Advocate Msini, I'm sorry to do this to you. May I just give you 2 seconds for your text support so that we can see your face instead of the table? Or you switch off your mic, either of the two. That will help.
I think I'm located.
I've given it. Just do it. Just 2 seconds. No, lower down. At least you're too high. Your head is cut into 2 halves. It's you with the white shirt, isn't it?
Yes, Chair.
Chairperson, my hand is up, Chairperson. Good morning.
Okay, just sort yourself there. Just go a little bit lower in terms of the screen, not yourself, because you are seated. May I then take, there are 2 hands while you are sorting yourself there, Advocate Msini. May I take Honorable McD and Honorable Mabena? Yeah.
Good morning, Chairperson.
Before that, if Valerie can assist me if there are any hands, because now I have to stretch all the time. It takes time, and my apology for that. V, if you may assist me in terms of the hands, if there would be any hands. Honorable McD, my apology for not recognizing you on time.
No problem, Chairperson. Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, honourable members, all the officials from the department. Chairperson, I'm sorry to raise this, Chairperson, but this is not our first Zoom meeting, and I think that when a presentation is done to the Portfolio Committee, I'm sure that all these technical problems sitting 1,000 miles away from the microphone and in one boardroom is not conducive for a good meeting, Chairperson. I mean, they should be ready when we start, Chairperson. We want to accept their presentation and work with the presentation so that the people of South Africa can see that the department and the Portfolio Committee on Transport is serious about deaths on our roads, especially over the festive season. And having a meeting like that where everything is disorganized does not show that we are organized, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Mabena, and Advocate, I think you are perfect now. Honorable Mabena, over to you, sir.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. I think I wanted to labor on the same issue, but let me not waste time. But safe to say that we received the notification on the 15th of November for this meeting today. And for a big corporation like RTMC, with it's organized this morning, it's just total uncalled for, and it just it's like we don't appreciate it. And I think it's such irritations that we get from some of these entities early on, before even the presentation has been done. I think what stopped them from having like a trial run to make sure that everything is done correctly. And also, also to the department as well. The fact that the department itself, the minister is not here, no one knew who's supposed to lead the delegation. Someone else comes in, introduces someone else introduces someone. I mean, like, it's just chaotic. It's just like we're in kindergarten here. We don't appreciate that. This is the portfolio committee on transport. You account to this committee. We cannot in any way you taking us for granted the way that we are doing now. And I think you should desist. You must organize yourselves. You know you're coming to an official meeting of parliament. We received this notification on the 15th of November. What stopped you from making sure that who's going to introduce who else? And it seems like you didn't even know that the minister would not be in this meeting today. And this confusion and chaos, honestly, Chair, we have to discourage it. It's something that is irritating, and that the department and the entity itself must organize themselves. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, honorable members. And I guess we are sharing the same sentiments that I registered. And I think the message has reached home through the DG. And in the near future, we shall expect the department to be a little bit, because smaller things matters than the bigger ones. And but I'm sure that the point is taken, and it will be registered accordingly through the ears of the DG and the team. I'm happy that even the provinces are hearing the sentiments of the portfolio committee members. If I may, if there are no other hands, then allow me to ask Advocate Msibi to do the presentation. And over to you, Advocate.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, as well as the honorable members of the portfolio committee. Chair, the presentation is going to be two-pronged as we're sharing it. It is going to be informed first by the analysis of the 5-year trajectory, which will then inform the plan for this festive season. We have intended to ensure that we take the committee on board in understanding how we came to the festive season plan, informed by the lessons that we have learned from the 5-year situation, as well as, of course, the targeted milestone of the 2030 in terms of the reduction of the road fatalities. This matter was, of course, approved by Cabinet that by 2030, we need to ensure that we have reached a 50% or we have halved the road fatalities from the baseline that was set in 2011. So the plan will also then be taking into account all the milestones that are going to take us to the point where we're going to achieve this matter. Yes, indeed, in terms of the road traffic management as well as the National Road Safety Strategy, we have been assigned the responsibility to lead this process as an RTMC. However, we also share the responsibility informed by Schedule 4 and Schedule 5 of the Constitution, since it is indeed a concurrent competencies between the national, provincial, and the municipalities. It became very critical for us to engage with a number of state-owned entities as well as a number of institutions. When we then drafted this strategy, we then took from the stats essay as to the total population of the country, which we now know that the entire population of the country is now 62 million. And indeed, we just opposed that in terms of the total number of of the drivers that we have in the country, which will not, it's 12.5 million. That will then begin to give us an indication that plus or minus 21% of our population are the people that, of course, traverse our roads, but not only the drivers that traverse our roads, but also the members of the public in terms of the pedestrians. And it is also important to note that, so that when we then deal with the issue of the output, we can compare apples with apples. In terms of the statistics, we now know that 51% of the 62 million accounts for female in our country, and 48 accounts, 48% accounts for the males. We have then taken the trajectory of race in terms of these matters because it also plays a role in terms of the analysis of the statistics come the time of the announcement. We had looked in terms of the past trajectory, what has been a challenge to all of us in terms of those that possesses the driver's licenses and those that have been involved in fatal crashes and assault in crashes. It is common phenomenon that the ages that we need to focus mostly about are the ages between 21 years of age as well as 49 years of age. That's where we're sitting with massive problem. But if you then look in terms of the 2022 analysis of the state of our stats, we had serious challenges of the people that are between 45 years and to 49 years. That on its own, they accounted for about 8.2%. And if you look in terms of the variables in the last 5 years, the last 2 years, we had 3 years, we had serious challenges of people that are between the age of 30 and 49. And those are the people that have contributed largely in terms of our road fatalities and carnages. We also looked in terms of the countries, we compared ourselves with the countries, other countries as to the issue of the fatalities where we're ranking. And we then looked at the top 20 of these countries as to how these fatalities are impacting. And that begins to benchmark us as we deal with this, with our issues. We finally looked into the vehicle population, and it is very common phenomenon that Gauteng becomes at all material times the highest of the numbers. That will be followed obviously by KZN and Western Cape, followed by Eastern Cape. This analysis is very critical when we come to the top 5 provinces that contribute largely in terms of the fatalities in our country. Then we took the issue of the driver population. If you look at also in terms of the driver population, it is common phenomenon that Gauteng accounts for the most. If we then have to do a scan analysis, you will then realize that most of the provinces are at least a half of the driver population that is found in Gauteng. KZN will be half of Gauteng. Western Cape will be about 2/3 or 1/3 of what Gauteng is all about. And Eastern Cape will be lesser than 20% of what Gauteng is. However, if you look in terms of the accidents that we have, it will also account the same for the Limpopo province. But there is, of course, the element of the movement between those countries, between those provinces, that also account for the increase in terms of the fatalities that we have. We have also taken the issue of the learner licensed drivers as to what is the permutation and what is the color and the complexion of the driver license, learner driver licenses in the country. And this also gives us depict the picture. But what is also important is the matter of the PRDP, because we are a country that is mostly flooded by the rain as well as heavy motor vehicles. And to that extent, the issue of the PRDP plays a critical role in the analysis of our road fatalities. We then also in this matter looked into what then the issues are playing themselves in terms of the metros, SANRAL, and the provinces and the local municipalities, so that we then begin to deal with this issue in terms of the road network that we have in the country. Because also the surface of the road network plays a critical role.
On a point of order, Chair.
Honorable Mabena.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you for recognizing me, and sorry to interrupt Advocate Msibi.
Mm.
But just one thing here, maybe we can be assisted. We received the presentation from Ms. Valerie Carrel at 9:15 yesterday, Monday the 20th. The presentation that is presented here and the one that we received is not the same. If you look at slide 11 and slide 12, on slide 12, it says situational analysis, fatal crashes by day of the week. On this one, slide 12 says road network. What is the point of sending a presentation to us a day before when you're going to present a different presentation? And there was no email that we received about an updated presentation. Because here it says festive presentation, NRSSC briefing. Unless if I've got everything absolutely incorrect, of which I apologize and will withdraw. But can I just get just assistance here?
Thanks, Honorable Mabena. Advocate Msibi, I think the point that is raised by Honorable Mabena is very valid. Probably I should have said it at the beginning, even before the DG, that we will request one, that if there are any changes on the slides than what we have, do also direct us to that. But the most important point is that those changes were not communicated to us, and they are very important because also it gives comparisons as it were, and it deals with numbers. If you can, and I'm not too sure if your good self advocate Msibi or is the DG, but let me just ask directly the question of Honorable Mabena to the DG, who's the leader of the delegation. DG, do you want to come in on that? Because we are the ones that directed the link through on behalf of the minister to us in terms of getting information and presentations. That it, DG?
Chair, can I answer?
Sorry, Chair. I'm battling a bit with connection, so I've lost a bit of what was said. But I think the Chair is raising the matter of
changes on the presentation that has been circulated to members. It was going to be proper to be told what are the changes so that also we are empowered. So I'm directing to you, DG, because we are the ones that circulate the information to us on behalf of the minister for the department. Okay, let me just to save time. Advocate Msibi, do you have anything to say on this?
Yes, please, Chair. Chair, you'll recall when I started, I then said, I requested that I do the presentation in two parts. The first was the 5-year analysis. This is we're not yet on the festive season plan. That's part B, but I then requested that we take the members of the portfolio on the analysis so that when we get to the plan, they understand the trajectory of this process. I will so indicate when we get to the plan. The plan has not changed. The plan is as the DG submitted, but we thought it's proper that we take the portfolio committee in terms of the analysis so that the portfolio committee has a broader perspective and an understanding where the plan comes from. But if the portfolio committee can direct that we leave the analysis, we can zoom into the presentation immediately.
Okay, so in short, you are apologizing that you didn't share the analysis to us. However, they are equally important. Sorry,
can you just
sorry?
Let me just try and get
No, you are not gonna get here. Just switch off your
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Leave it. Sure.
Yeah, because it's the DG. Okay. No. I'm saying that the Advocate Msibi. I thought it's just a background. Advocate Msibi. What we are saying is that we are apologizing that in terms of the analysis, you didn't share it with us. However, they are equally important. Hence, in your introductory remark, you did make that you start with the analysis so that also we're able to do comparison. But what the point Honorable Mabena is saying is that while it's equally important, but it was going to be proper that you would have shared with us so that also we do our own back office work to ensure that whatever you have given us in terms of the numbers are what it is. But nevertheless, I think the point is taken, and I would request that DG, I thought it was sample. or you don't want to show my video, it's fine. The IT here. Let's proceed, Honorable Mabena and honorable members, with that understanding, but we register that in the future, whatever information that you think is important to us, it must be shared to us so that there are no surprises in terms of the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. We'll do so, and we'll also then send it. Chair, to then give into the portfolio committee also the issue of the number of traffic officers that we have that are going to be implementing this process and the festive season plan, so that the human capital that it's in there, it's then understood. And these figures are the figures of the registered traffic officers that are found within the system. We also then ensured that we also took into account the issue of the volumes of the sales in terms of the petroleum, because that also begins to indicate the movement of the most people in the provinces that are most affected in terms of the mobility as well as the movement within the provinces. Critical is the issue of the alcohol consumption. We thought it's important that we put it because most of the accidents are then precipitated or caused by the fact of people driving under the influence of liquor. We did the same, and we will then also begin to give that to the portfolio committee. We have also looked in terms of the weather conditions, because we now know from the weather bureau that this festive season is going to be flooded with some rains, and the rain is going to be playing a critical role in terms of the surface of the network. We know that in terms of if the surface is wet, most of the people are unable to begin to control the motor vehicles. That also is a phenomenon that plays itself, and then we also deemed it prudent that we take that into account in developing the plan. We then went back and then said, from the past 5 years, let's give to the portfolio what the situation was in terms of the fatal crashes that we had in the country. It will also begin to indicate the reductions and some of the issues, the increase in terms of the provinces, but it gives the portfolio committee a better understanding of the trajectory for this year. And the same that we did in the fatal crashes. We also looked in terms of the days of the week, in terms of the fatal crashes, which are the most problematic days. It then showed, the graphs will then show that from Thursday, you then begin to have a gradient that goes up, Friday, but Saturday is the peak of what we then have. And then it begins to tell us so that when we deploy, we know which days of the week are we going to be flooding it. Particularly in this year's analysis, we'll all know that we have now declared the 15th of December a holiday is going to have an impact to the weekday stats, as well as the New Year and the Christmas that also is going to be funding its times. So we took into account for the past 5 years, what was the situation of the occurrences of the crash of the fatal crashes. We then realized that with the exception of 2022, we had the highest in the morning, but mostly they happened between the hours of 18 hours until 23 hours. So that's where we need to focus, but it doesn't mean that the deployment should only be made during those days, but we must heighten it in anticipation and in prediction of what has happened in the past. We dealt with the fatalities too. We then looked into the common phenomenon of people always thinking that most of the fatal crashes and accidents are caused by the minibuses. And we wanted to depict and dismiss the myth that the minibuses are the cause of most of the fatal crashes. And we gave that picture in the analysis. And finally dealt in terms of the motor vehicle. We also looked in terms of the fatalities as concerned in terms of the gender, the week that we have dealt with. And having dealt with this, Chair, then let me then cruise into the main presentation that relates to the festive season, now having made this precursor in relation to the analysis of the past 5 years. Chair, we're now getting to the festive season. What we did in terms of the festive season and preparatory or getting into, just a moment, Chair. Chair, in terms of the festive season, we have paraphrased the presentation into 6 pillars, which will then deal with the issue of the introduction, situational analysis, interventions, target setting, because we need to set ourselves a target as we go to this festive season. What are we targeting to deal with, and who are the stakeholders, as well as deal with the matter that relates to the risk management. Chair, if we look into the festive season, we looked into the peculiarities that are going to be involved within the festive season, or as we then have to prepare ourselves for this festive season. We know that there's gonna be a lot of parties, as most of the people will be celebrating the year that was, in terms of industry, in terms of schools, in terms of social clubs, gatherings, family gatherings. Some of the people beginning to take their journeys for holiday seasons, even across the borders of South Africa. Schools will then be closing. But what is important for us in terms of this plan, it's a matter that relates to the traveling, particularly at nighttime driving, and the consumption of alcohol, which we know that is going to be a highest phenomenon in terms of the celebrations that people are going to have. And we're also going to look at the volumes, increased volumes of traveling. What are we then going to be dealing with during this process as we gear ourselves and position ourselves to deal with the challenges quite frequently? It's a matter of excessive speeding, reckless and negligent driving, unroadworthy vehicles. We will also be looking in terms of the freight industry, in terms of the validity of their licensing disc, as well as the overloading, which is also one of the phenomena that cause some accidents, and as well as fatigue. But how do we respond in terms of our plan? In terms of our plan, we are going to intensify education so that we then begin to engage and begin to educate most of the road users. We're also going to deal with the matter of communication. There's going to be unprecedented, heightened communication with the citizens, the road users, as well as the drivers and the pedestrians. And also we then looking in terms of the law enforcement interventions. When is the festive season gonna be starting? Chair, I might, so that the committee understand, with that, we thought it prudent that this festive season needs to have a theme, so that we're working towards the attainment of the theme. And we know that the festive season is going to start from the 1st of December up to the 15th of January. However, there will be some pre-festive season activities and programs to ensure that it's a seamless process. It started with the October Transport Month. We're now going to get, in this month, we're getting into Siaba Kumbula, which is going to be taking place over the weekend. These are all massified interventions that are intended to ensure that we are competent, ready to deal with this process. So the theme, Masipelele, we're taking it from the state of the nation, and we want to ensure that as we get to this festive season, we leave no one behind, and we come out from the festive season being, of course, still the same number that we have. If you look in terms of the themes and the driving tips that we're dealing with, it's an issue of emphasizing the matter of being safe, be patient, be rested. We want to ensure that those that are going to be taking the longest trips, they need to ensure that from certain intervals, they then rest. We then put in terms of what it's finally getting its expression in the social medias, be cool. All what we say, we are saying to people, avoid the road rage, because the road rage, it's what it's then beginning to deal with our people who are always in the hurry, who are always impatient for this festive season, who are beginning to plead with all the road users that let us be considerate. We also then ensure that as you are going to be embarking onto these trips, you need to be prepared. What does the meaning of being prepared? For those that will be using the vehicles, we are beginning to say it is imperative that you then look at the state of the roadworthiness of your vehicles. Tires, tire ends, look as well as the lights, look at the ball joints, getting to these issues so that we avoid these issues that are a matter of common knowledge in causing the accident. But at the very same time, also, as we say that be prepared, check the validity of your driver's license. If your driver's license has expired, please renew. Check in terms of the PRDP, whether if you're traveling and driving in a heavy vehicle or a public vehicle, ensure that you are also dealing with the issues that are in. What are the issues that are going to be assisting us, Chair, to ensure that we reduce the final crashes? The intention for this year is to ensure that we reduce the number of road crashes and fatalities. We want to promote responsible road safety usage. We also want to ensure that we influence the change in the behavior and the culture to ensure that we then begin to deal with effective road safety messaging. We want to create ambassadors of road safety in their own, but what is more critical is the application and the introduction of the effective law enforcement operations at strategic levels that will ensure that we maximize the input. But we're also going to ensure that throughout the country, with all the colleagues from the municipality level, the province, and going any further, we deal with the maximum publicity of the new offerings that we're dealing with to ensure that people are buying in. But at the very same time, a matter of ensuring that we highlight the government's commitment to service delivery. We know that there's been a lot of issues in terms of the potholes and all these issues. We're beginning to deal with ourselves to be ready in this matter. Why are we doing this? We're beginning to inspire the public to buy in and give us the commitment. And once we have that commitment from the public, we are certain to meet the expectations of the public. In terms of the situational analysis, we had said in the 5-year trajectory that we have dealt with, we have looked in terms of the increase into the population. So census played a very critical role in our state of readiness to then ensure that what are we going out there and expecting, and also the aggregation of the population that we are dealing with, so that as we then deal with this matter, we then know what are we then dealing with in these issues. But what is more important on this slide, it's a matter of pedestrians, because we seem to be focusing mainly on the drivers and the people that are on vehicles, and we leave a greater aspect of the people that are on foot, and it becomes very critical to deal with this matter. We then gave the state of our road surface, so that all of us understand what is the percentage and what is the perspective of the road surface and the network that we have. And as we have dealt with this matter, we have clearly indicated, Chair, that even in the deployment, we're also going to look in terms of the road surfaces so that we know what are we then dealing, knowing into the fact that in terms of the network throughout the country, it's not all the road network that is surface, particularly taking into account the issue of the weather services that this year, during this festive season, we're going to be confronted with some weighty wet situations. We then give the climate analogy on the map of the South Africa to them, so that we then understand where are we having the highest probabilities and possibilities of the rainfall, so that we also deploy the same way, and in communicating with the public, we can also do the same to warn the public in terms of what they are going to be confronted with in terms of the services. Chair, we had also given the issue in relation to the number of driver's licenses issues. This is very critical. If you look in terms of the number of driver's licenses vis-a-vis from 2021, it has been a common phenomenon that most of our drivers on our roads, they either did not renew their driver's licenses, two, they do have a number of infringements, and we know that if you have a number of infringements, it's not easy for you to then renew the driver's license, and most of the people are running away. So this is what also we're going to be focusing on, because this is the matter that is going to make or break us. We also, as we have said, the issue of the PRDPs. And if we look in terms of the vehicle population, we have seen an increase in terms of the vehicle population, which now sits at about 12,957,000. And the highest increase of the vehicle population is within the area of Gauteng as well as Western Cape. Yes, there is progressive increment in other areas, but we want also to deal with this issue so that the number of the people that we deploy is consistent with the volume of the vehicles that we are dealing with, despite the fact that we have a lesser number of the traffic officers that we would ordinarily want to have in this country. We then looked into this matter of the fatalities. It's a fact that the fatalities in the years past has decreased by 14%. So what we are now doing, though we have put ourselves to the fact that we will ensure that we decrease even this festive season by further less of than 10%, we want to ensure that incrementally this number takes us to the 50% decrease of the fatalities. We have 5 provinces that are the highest in our focal areas, which is KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, Limpopo, Eastern Cape, and Western Cape. These 5 provinces are our priority in terms of dealing with the fatalities during this festive season. And the focus will be on this, but not necessarily, meaning that we are not going to deploy in other areas. There will be deployment, but we are saying, let's focus into the areas that we know that have caused us some problems. And we are going to ensure that for this festive season, from the 15th of December up to the 21st and the 28th and 22nd until the 28th, as well as the new year, we then deal with intensified law enforcement, particularly Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We are going to ensure that we intensify the deployment on those issues, as well as we're going to ensure that there are a number of law enforcement operations starting from 3 o'clock in the afternoon until midnight, so as to ensure that we capture the moment with those people. We're also going to be focusing on the pedestrians, because we know that during the year that has passed, the pedestrians accounted for 41% of our fatalities. So it is important that we then look into the pedestrians and the people that are on foot, But we know what is the key areas that contribute largely to these matters. Key to it is the spatial planning. Our spatial planning in terms of human settlement at some times mostly cast across the main artery roads, and people are forced then to cross into those roads. There's also the lack and or non-willingness to use the overhead bridges or cross in the communities. People want to take the shortcut, and that on its own accounts for a number of fatalities. This is common on our N4, N3, N1, N12. These are the common issues as well as N2. So we're going to be focusing on these matters. We're also going to be looking at jaywalking. Yes, we know that SAPS has not classified the issue of jaywalking as a critical offense, but we are going also to be dealing with these matters and in our own, as well as distracted driving. What are the critical areas that we are beginning to deal with and we are profiling in terms of the top 10 of the areas? We are going to be looking at Mpumalanga, Limpopo, Eastern Cape. If you look into the areas of those issues collectively, you will find that in Mpumalanga, it's Wamhlanga, the R53 Moloto Road. You look at Mankwen in Limpopo, Dojwa in Eastern Cape as well as Mount Elif, Naboom Strait, Bizana, Mukopane, Northwestern Stilfontein, Eastern Cape, Mtata, as well as KwaZulu-Natal, the Pongola. What are the interventions? The interventions are going to be law enforcement deployment, education and communication, as well as monitoring. So we have identified the hotspots in terms of the law enforcement to deploy in those areas and mitigate these three appropriate operational and resource planning. We'll be dealing our planning and resource deployment will not be static. It will be more of elastic in their nature because it's going to be responding to a number of issues. The road safety education is going to be at the center of our rollout, as well as we rely solemnly on the partnerships with the stakeholders, particularly from the road safety perspective, as well as we are also going to ensure from the monitoring point of view, we need to have consistent communication that is going to be dealing with us. What is our strategy? Our strategy is three-pronged or three phases. It's the festive season activities. It's also the festive season and the post-festive season. What are we then going to do? We're going to capitalize on the gains that we have made through the October Transport Month and ensure that we deal with the communication pre the travel of the people and the roadworthiness, and ensure that we request people to, we encourage people to review their driver's license. There's going to be a number of mini campaigns, both on the website as well as the social media platforms, that will then ensure that it invokes and engender the spirit of the public to participate in this process and look at a number of issues. There'll be intervals, media briefings that will be dealing with this. But for the festive season, we're going to be launching the festive season campaign, which of course will be intertwined with Siaba Kumbula. So that on its own, we are going to ensure that we request and begin to mobilize the people to deal with the responsible alcohol use, look at the designated arrangements, particularly for those that will be imbibing, to ensure that we go into the imbibing and celebration or parties, they've had some designated drivers that are going to be assisting them and the media. Chair, I'm losing my voice. I just want to have some sip of the water. Can I then request Ms. Mungale just to hold the fort for me while I'm just attending to this matter?
Chairs. Okay. Mr. P, can you come in? Meanwhile, may I request that your team chair does CO advocate? Wait, sis, 1 second. Wait, 1 second. 1 second. 1 second, ma'am. Can you hear me? Eben. Okay, it's me. It's the chair. I was saying that while the advocates in CBS drinking water, before you come in, is the chair of the portfolio committee. That may we get send us the analysis presentation that was presented earlier on, and then you may proceed, ma'am.
Chair, it's Honorable Ramadan.
Honorable.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Is it possible that you see the face of the person who is presenting and now we can switch off for promoting connectivity? Because sometimes when advocate was speaking, sometimes we're not hearing him properly. Is it possible that?
Oh, okay. No, thank you very much. I was not aware that she was not audible enough. Okay, I will request, I know Advocate Msibi has sent it over to the other lady. If you can do that, ma'am, just show your face and switch off your video and just ensure that your mic is on so that we can hear you. But ensure that by the time you finish the analysis presentation, we should have received it, which we have requested. You may proceed, ma'am.
The deployment of resources during the festive season is based on 6-point crashes and fatalities reduction strategy. The main issue that we are confronted with is pedestrians. Pedestrian awareness and enforcement is at the center. Vehicle roadworthiness on the safer vehicle also plays an important role. Public passenger transport awareness and enforcement becomes very important. Drunken driving, alcohol, and its impact also is highlighted, as well as speed law enforcement and execution of warrants.
So watching. If in your volume, because you are loud and clear, ma'am.
The role of the National Traffic Police. The National Traffic Police will focus where it matters the most. And these are the areas where we register the highest amount of fatal crashes and fatalities. The issue of traffic deployment will also be informed by when it matters the most. When it matters the most is during, as we approach nighttime, and during the weekends when the majority of our traffic officers are not on duty. The National Traffic Police will be on those critical routes informed by road crashes and fatalities data. Interventions and formats. We are going to be on the roads. We are going to be in recreational spaces. We are going to be on mass media, and we are also going to target spaces. On the road will be taxi and bus rank activations. We'll be talking about fatigue management at roadblocks, weight rest interventions, as well as filling stations, especially on national roads. Shopping malls and big events are also targeted. We are also targeting Haslock roadside interventions, exhibitions, and faith-based gatherings. Radio, television, digital spaces, and print will be a focus on mass media activations. And in terms of who the targets are, public transport operators, motorists, passengers, pedestrians, and the general public will be targeted. Pedestrian safety interventions, we highlight this. Some key messaging that will be going out about obeying the rules of the road, visible clothing, extra caution when crossing at intersections, crossing where it is safe to do so. If you are going to have a few drinks, choose not to walk alone. Most pedestrians die at night, avoid walking in the dark, and related messages to pedestrians, which we are highlighting as a priority. The festive season critical dates are also outlined in the plan. We have spoken about the pre-activities. This will be followed by the festive season activities following from the school closure. We will have a midterm review. There will be a Christmas and a long weekend break. There will also be post-festive season media briefing activities that will take place throughout these critical dates. Target setting. On the issue of setting targets, we have looked at the target that we are trying to achieve in terms of the MTEP, and that is to reduce by 25% by 2024. Linked to this is how we have performed historically, so we want to improve based on that. So all the provinces will have targets based on how they have performed and how much they should still attain in order to reach their MTEP targets. Stakeholder inclusion. We have consulted with various stakeholders to develop a joint approach with the festive season. Some of the stakeholders that we have finalized plans with include FNB, aware.org, as well as Renault South Africa. Our stakeholders include government departments, emergency services, road entities, private sector, faith-based organizations. These are all the stakeholders that have had an opportunity to look and inform their festive season plan. On the relationship with FNB, going digital is at the center of this, and having access to the FNB client base. The FNB client base will be with us as their clients take on a journey. They will be communicating with them. They will also, through their online platforms, be encouraging compliance through registration of vehicles and online renewals of licenses to ensure that their users are compliant. They also have a partnership with Engine, so they will be providing access to those platforms so that we are able to communicate with road users as they begin their journey on their holidays and also as they return from their holidays. We are also going to partner with aware.org on a number of initiatives that have got to do with social media awareness, that have got to do with public relations and national radio campaigns. The digital out-of-home billboards will also be erected at places where there is a higher need. So these are informed by statistical data. So we want it to have relevance and to be placed at the right places. And social media amplification is at the center of this as we try to amplify the message across a range of stakeholders. We are also on the monitoring side, partnering with Renault SA. They will be providing us with vehicles to augment the capacity that we have for monitoring purposes. What are the risks that are involved? The weather has been mentioned. It must be something that we keep abreast of so that we know how to communicate and to educate our road users on responsible driving during unpredictable weather conditions that may arise during the period. There is also a risk of unplanned absenteeism, confrontation of possible aggressive behavior by road users who are rushing to get to their hospital destinations. There's always the risk of injury on duty, and criminal activities might be witnessed during this period, congestion and high traffic volumes. So planning and patrolling and working with toll concessionaires becomes very important. And also the issue of pound facilities, which might not be available during the period. For each of these risks, we are putting forward a number of mitigating measures to ensure that we minimize their impact. With that said, thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, ma'am. I couldn't get your surname because on the platform it says Medium Boardroom. But nevertheless, I know it's a she, that the ma'am is appropriate to say thank you very much to step in for advocating Msibi. DG, are there any other issues that you want to raise before I allow and refer the presentation to the members for our engagements at the portfolio committee? I understand you. Okay, or is that Tabisa, because DG did text me to say that he's just stepping out for another meeting. Tate Tabisa, before I take you, Tate Tabisa, I can see Honorable Ramado's hand. Over to you, ma'am, Honorable Ramado.
I'm sorry, it's a legacy hand. I wanted to speak, or I've spoken. Can give
yeah.
then I'll speak after him.
Okay, your legacy is very long, eh? On a lighter note. Ntate Hlabisa, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson of the committee. I won't be saying anything. I think, Chair, you're correct. Let's allow the members to engage, and then we will take turns and respond to for points of clarification to the presentation that has been made and the plans, whatever you can call it. So can I allow, Chairperson, that we follow that, and then we can take it from there. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you. Ntate Hlabisa, while you are going to listen to the engagement of the portfolio, I must register to your good self, because now you are representing the department, that we haven't received the analysis report, and we have requested it, and I don't know why it takes ages. But nevertheless, let me just see on the platform, any hands, honorable members, takers?
Okay, let me just engage separately. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Honorable members, here we are.
I raised my hand, now it's a new hand.
It's a fresh one. Like, I recognize Honorable Magdi, Honorable Ra, Magdi, Honorable Mabena.
Chairperson, I've got a problem with my cell phone. I also want to like to ask a question.
It's Honorable May, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Good. Okay. So anyone can also hold the voice so that I can recognize you if your system doesn't allow you. For now, we've got.
Please, Honorable Chairperson, Chris.
And for now, probably let's proceed. Then we'll come back to the new hands. Honorable Magdi, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just a side note, I've got connection issues, so I'm not putting my video on. Chairperson, thank you for I want to thank RTMC for their presentation, but I'm still a bit worried. You know, Chairperson, in 2020, I wrote a letter to the department. I followed up that letter in 2021 regarding the use of minibus taxis using trailers on specifically during the Easter weekend and during the festive season in December. And there's a very limited weight classification that those taxis, minibus taxis, can take, which is 400 kilograms. And I wrote a letter to the Department of Transport, to the DG. I wrote a letter to the DG of the Transport in the Western Cape to look into accidents that occur when these minibus taxis have got trailers behind them, because in my own analysis over the last 5 years, there's been about 45 fatal accidents where minibus taxis and trailers were involved. But until today, Chairperson, I've not received a response of either the Western Cape or the National Department of Transport. But because if we don't look at the causes of accidents, we will never be able to reduce accidents. And when we have an easy thing, just stop a couple of taxis and check the weights and make sure that they know what the weights is that they have to carry. Because in ignorance, it happens. You take a trailer and you put 600 kilograms of trailer because it's Christmas. Everybody's got luggage. Everybody's going on for a couple of weeks. And it's natural for people to accidentally overload these vehicles. And I'm sure there's a huge number of these vehicles, drivers that don't even know the limitation of the vehicles that they are driving. But I don't see the department doing anything to educate these drivers so that we can reduce the accidents on the road. Also, Chairperson, in the last slides, they were talking about congestion, etc., etc. Chairperson, currently, at the crossing into Mozambique, the congestion is 20-something kilometers long. And if they can't solve that issue now, just with trucks, in December, people are going to be standing Nelspruit just to get into Mozambique. They need to address these issues of border crossings and long queues, because people can't sit in cars for 2 days to cross a border crossing. I mean, we have the same issue crossing into Zimbabwe, have the same issue crossing into Mozambique, because we've got many people that travel on those roads during those times. And then, Chairperson, I think I'm going to leave it there, Chairperson. I don't want it, all the other things are just the normal copy and paste every year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable McG. Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Let me apologize upfront for my video. I'm having a challenge of connectivity where I am. Chairperson, let me start by welcoming the presentation, especially in twofold. Even you have indicated that they must distribute the other one, the analysis. I think what they did by having twofold, it was good because in analysis, it also informs their plan. And this presentation was very much comprehensive. We're able to follow the plan after their analysis. The challenge is that we didn't have that analysis, but we appreciate the presentation. Chairperson, I also want to check with the department. They spoke of objectives in their presentation. So one of the objective was saying they want to ensure that effective law enforcement operation is in place. How are they going to do that? Secondly, they said they will publicize new service. What are those? What is that new service that they want to publicize? The other issue that I want to check with the department is on stakeholders. Which departments are they having relationship with that they are they are having relationship with? And then lastly, Chairperson, the presentation, they have indicated that about the consumption of alcohol, that is also causing these fatal accidents. What is their advice to those who are drinking or who are consuming alcohol and drive? Specifically, to those that are taking a lot of alcohol and drive. That's all from me, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ra. Honorable Mabena.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Just to say that I will be looking to my left. I think that might be all right. I'm looking at the second screen as I try to make sense of this information. The presentations that we have received, the reason why we're saying that it's important that you send us these presentations, you see, now we're going to be asking you questions on the basis of information that you provided to us on the fly, not on the basis of having done a proper analysis in terms of what you have presented. And as such, this is going to prolong our engagement with you because you will have the burden of clarifying what you have said. In your analysis, the first presentation, you mentioned you did an analysis in terms of but let me give this some sort of a preamble to say the use of data in terms of making sense of the road fatalities, having the correct interventions for the purposes of analysis and making sure that you can have intelligent analysis in terms of the entire scope of what is happening is quite important. It's something that we agree with, that we must be scientific about our solutions and interventions in some of these things. And therefore, the analysis of that data becomes critically important. And I think that direction from the entity is quite the correct one. But here is another challenge. You mentioned the issue of race when you started with that presentation. As I said, I don't have sight of that information, like sight of that presentation. So I have to speak from what I could gather. You made a number of analyses in terms of the greater scope of fatalities and everything else, the age group, the times and everything else. But then the first in terms of the analysis, you used the race as part of the demographics. What does race have to do with it? Why does it matter that like an Indian person or a black person or a white person has passed away? Isn't it that it's supposed to say South Africans are passing away, citizens are passing away? I could understand the issue of, in terms of the age group of these people, what is happening in as far as that and all of that. But now the big challenge here is, what does race have to do? What insights does race give you in terms of that data analysis? What can you tell me logically that as a result of you doing a race analysis in terms of this, how is that going to enhance your response in terms of this, what you are presenting to us? Because mine is to say South Africans are dying. Whether you are pink, you are green, you are yellow, it doesn't matter. South Africans are dying. And the other demographics I don't have a problem with. But what does race have to do with it? You see, and had you provided us with that presentation, perhaps we could have followed in terms of what race has to do with it. The other issue is, again, on that very same slide, if they can go to that slide, Chair, on slide 4, on the first presentation, because we don't have sight of it, so what I want to say, so that we don't have situation where we're are presenting misinformation and all of those things. If the people that we're presenting, can they fly that presentation, since they have not sent it to us?
Oh, okay. Thanks, Honorable Mapena. I must register that it has just been sent 5 minutes back.
Okay.
And of course, noted that we did request it. Honorable May, over to you, sir.
No, Chair, I haven't finished.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Just hold on, Honorable May.
I think if you go to slide 4, there on that presentation, I see it has just been. Now, here is another challenge. You are saying the split between females and males, 51% females, 48% males. That amounts to 99%. What happened to the 1%? Now, why is it important? You might say that it's a small issue, but it's not. It's a very critical and important issue, because this has the potential to compromise your entire data in terms of what you're presenting to us. Because 48 plus 51 amounts to 99%. But this is not the only challenge that you've done. On the other presentation, the one that they were presenting to us, the second one, on slide 10, the same issue that I've picked up again, the numbers don't tally. If you go to slide 10, not on this presentation, on the other presentation, the situational analysis in terms of driver and vehicle population, the bar graph there amounts to 99% again. What does this say about the due diligence of the department and the presentations that they send to members of parliament? We read these presentations, we do a proper analysis, we have to run the numbers, we have to look at what are the causalities, what are the correct interventions. But if your numbers, you don't check and you don't do due diligence, it compromises the entire data itself. Because what does it do? The first thing that it does is it speaks to the accuracy of the data, and this has the potential to mislead us as members of parliament, but also in terms of decision making on your behalf. If we are using data which is compromised and doesn't tally, that will affect your decision making processes. You are relying on incorrect and inaccurate data. Therefore, we can even say that the accuracy and the integrity of this whole presentation is compromised because you haven't done due diligence. And on two separate presentations, pick up the same issue. Why is it that you are presenting substandard presentations to us as members of this is parliament? We are presenting to the portfolio committee of Transport. This is where you account. You must do due diligence and make sure that these issues are addressed. And also as the potential, the reputation of the entity itself. Now, when you come back and make a presentation, you say, no, these ones can't even put together a proper and a report which is accurate. What does then it do? It also affects confidence within the sector as well. Because the people that are watching while you are giving us this presentation here. And I think something that the department must take serious and something that you must address. The other issue is also the presentation that you did not send to us. At the end of that presentation, this analysis, it says that discussion. So you had an expectation that we're going to discuss this thing, yet you did not send it to us. I don't know what type of, they're on slide 31. What type of procedures is this your first time presenting to the Portfolio Committee of Transport? Over the past 5 years, you've been giving us these presentations, but somehow you seem to be all over the place in terms of the structure of the committee. Why do you want to expect us to discuss something that you have not sent it to us? Doesn't make any sense. The other thing is the issue of the overhead bridges and the public opting to use shortcuts and some of these things. What is the data around that? What is the intelligence around it? What is the causalities around that? Because we have a situation where some of these overhead bridges are placed in very awkward places where a community starts and then is placed right at the extreme end. But then you find that the total, geographical area of that community, this thing is placed at the extreme end instead of it being placed at least at the center so that everyone can access it. And one such thing, because you mentioned the N3. The N3, there's an overhead bridge along, I think it's between just after Leondale, heading to Heidelberg. That bridge is placed almost at the start of that community, and you still have to drive before that community finishes. And then as you drive along, you see school children crossing that road, but there is an overhead bridge. Where is the engineering? Where is the using data and intelligence in all of these things? Or we just do things just for the sake of doing them? And also in terms of complying with also collaboration with city planning and all of those things. So those are some of the issues that you must look at. The point here is on the issue of the R573. But before I go on the issue of the R573, you were speaking about the issue of the mass media. Here is my big problem with what you were presenting to us there. Number one, you are telling us that we are going to have mass media, we are going to be on radio, we are going to be doing these things, and where we are doing an analysis and the interventions and the formats. Here's the first question. What is the total budget for these interventions and formats? And also in terms of the mass media, you mentioned radio there. Is the local radio stations, have they been engaged? And also on the targeted spaces, on the bottom right of the presentation, you say faith-based gatherings. And you say that some of these, those are some of your key and important stakeholders, but you don't list traditional leaders. In some of these rural areas, if a traditional leader calls a meeting, the whole village goes. But if you as government, you call a meeting, only a few people pitch. What does it tell you? It tells you the power and influence of traditional leaders. Specifically, I'm referring to the issue of the R573. You are planning mass big events there. You're going to have these prayer things that you do there on R573. But what is the engagement with traditional leaders? You are not including traditional leaders. And also, you've identified that R573 for the longest time is the one that has is the leading in terms, we're leading in the most unfortunate metric that we can think of in the death and fatalities of South Africans. That's what Mpumalanga is known for. We're leading in that, where South Africans are just dying, and we're taking the lead in terms of that. What is you spoke about the deployment of the National Traffic Police, and I've made this point in the committee before. You deploy them in some of the most, I don't know what to say, unintelligent deployment of the National Traffic Police. And here is the issue. What is the deployment of technology in terms of this? Is there any operational room or a nerve center that you have that will support the work that you'll be doing on R573? Because you need to start using technology in terms of that, using the deployment of drones, using any other available avenues in terms of that, because to even have an operational center that will support the work that you're doing on R573. Why am I singling it out? Is the leading one in terms of road fatalities. There was once when we went to do an oversight in Mpumalanga, specifically with regards to Mloto Road R573. And as the portfolio committee was driving on R573, we had, because there was a road accident. While the portfolio committee on transport was going to investigate what was happening there, we come across a fatal accident. We had to stop and assist there. And it's leading. What is the technology deployment in terms of this that you're doing and the attempt to use data to make sure that these issues are addressed? Come back, Chair, because I don't want to be in conflict with you.
Thank you very much, Honorable B. Let me take Honorable May.
Thank you, Chairperson. Visibility plays a major role in reducing accidents. My question, do you have enough traffic vehicles available to fight crime and accidents? Why I'm asking, during our oversight visit to Rustenburg in 2023, only 3 out of 21 traffic vehicles were in a running condition. What are you going to do to solve this problem before the festival season? Thank you, Chairperson.
Yeah, okay. Honorable Hansinga, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I've been largely covered by the questions and remarks of my colleagues, and I absolutely concur with everything. In general, I definitely support your mission, Advocate Sibisi, RTMC, and the department with your goal to decrease fatal crashes. I must also say that looking at this presentation of this year and given the experience of many previous similar presentations around this time of the year in anticipation of the festive season and the particularities of a road safety strategy, I am quite impressed with the data and research-based presentation of this year. It is also well aligned to a plan and strategy. I think in previous presentation, the alignment wasn't this specific. So indeed, it is an improvement in that respect. It is also adequately linked, in my view, with particular resources and needs, and we're looking forward to the results of your plans. I welcome the stakeholder inclusion over a wide spectrum. I think it can add a lot of value in messaging and also in supporting, given the restraints of resources that we experience in this budget framework. My question specifically then is around the use of body and vehicle camera technology. In the Western Cape, about 800 officers have been equipped with body cameras recently. And also in the Western Cape, a first province amongst the 9 provinces, we have equipped 300 patrol vehicles also with dashboard cameras. Now, this technology and the addition of camera technology to person and vehicle is valuable in evidence gathering. It is also valuable in terms of on-site footage, and it also safeguards our law enforcement staff and persons. Is this considered? How far are we in rolling this out in other provinces, given the benefit of this in law enforcement? I also have a question around the extended hours into the night, which is part of the new hotspot approach in terms of addressing anticipated fatalities in overnight time. To what extent are we aligned with other services like hospitals and doctors, etc., to accommodate this planning? And is this coordinated with other departments? Then just a general remark, a favorite one of mine to RTMC. How far are we in standardizing the uniforms? We still have 7 to 8 different traffic law enforcement uniforms in South Africa. This is confusing to cross-provincial travel. It is even more confusing for overseas visitors. In my view, it is totally unnecessary to have this variance in uniforms. We can have one uniform for law enforcement officers over all 9 provinces, and it is very expensive. So what is the progress on this? And then just one practical disappointment. The Dunoon Sunral Road was recently expanded into a dual carriageway. And despite the opportunity then to also address the huge number of people walking from the Dunoon township over the national road, now being a dual carriage, it has brought no change. I'm not sure what interventions have been made in terms of construction. What I'm observing and seeing is hundreds and hundreds of people crossing this now dual carriage road. And certainly we had the opportunity to engage with SANRAL and to do the planning. So a general question then also in light and in support of my colleague Mbena, what conversation is there with SANRAL in terms of the data and knowledge that you have within your particular entity that would inform planning of SANRAL? Because now we have to deal with consequences and we have to plan for situations where it could have been prevented. And I find it quite cheeky that in your own presentation you speak of spatial planning, whereas we had the opportunity in the example of the Dunoon, and it appears that there wasn't any engagement and the data which you do have didn't land in any form with SANRAL. I hope I'm wrong and that there is engagement, but it still remains a huge disappointment to see the challenges which many people face every morning and every afternoon in having to cross this now dual carriage road at Dunoon. Thank you, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much. Let me just check if there are any other hands. For now, I get those are the, 5 hands. That will be 6th hand, including mine. If I may, having appreciated the presentation, notwithstanding the comments that we have made earlier on, and I'm sure that we will improve. If I say we, I mean the department and its entities on that. I totally agree and accept and comprehend the rationale why each and every year we need to have a road safety festive season road safety plan, having taken the lessons from the previous years. Hence, the analysis were very important for us if we would have received them earlier, especially for some of us who are, inverted commas, new in this portfolio of responsibility. Having said that, one also appreciate, I hope I'm not going to get myself into trouble in the public space on this one. Prayers and gatherings are very important. But one in a near future, when we come back post December, Jan, if we can have a scientific analysis and evidence that says that having embarked on a prayer, having embarked on a community engagement in terms of meetings and all that, these are the spins off that we are getting. I will indicate advocating CB as well as DG that to say that I think the road carriages or road accidents, whether are human-made or purely incident as it were, we must also be able to scientifically say this is the causality thereof that we are going to ensure that we hamper on that until we get possible results that we wish. Two, from my side, But piggybacking on the points that Honorable McBenney would have raised earlier on, our role and our engagement with traditional leaders. But I want to expand it further to say some of the incidents is alleged, I'm very careful on this one, that also is drinking and driving or jaywalking, as it were. What partnership do we have with the liquor industries as well, but also tavern owners, bottle store owners, and restaurant owners, in terms of making sure that there is a plan B for whoever would have consumed whatever he or she would have consumed to leave his or her vehicle on the precinct, on that business precinct, and then a facility it's arranged for him or her to be taken home, as it were. The third one for me is that with this good plan, and of course informed by the history, fast forward, we had provinces that have been attacked or suffered a huge setback in terms of the road infrastructure. Have we also did analysis of the possibility and the potential areas that will also encourage or be fatal or be prone for road accidents, such as incomplete roads, the potholes fixing, and all that, and how we would ensure that we sensitize the road users to be mindful on those areas. I'm not saying that we must also popularize the potholes, but for the festive season, I think it's important because of most of the commuters, they commute during the night so that they can reach their destinations early mornings or during the daylight. I think for me, those are the important ones that I thought probably if we can just emphasize on those ones and be explicit on those areas. And of course, community citizenry education is an ongoing process. Just now we're going to have a closing of the exams of the matric, they call it matric dance or whatever it may be. But I'm not saying that in terms of the stats, they're the most affected ones, but those ones will be going from other provinces, such as your Western Cape, KZN, and Eastern Cape, and across the African states like your Swaziland and Mozambique and all that. What relationship do we have with those governments and departments of those other African states, as it were, which they are communities, they largely use the road, as it were. With that, let me hand over to you, Dr. Smisi, and the advocates in Sydney.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Chair, we'll try to answer the questions as asked. The issue raised by the Honorable Member McDonald in relation to the letter to the department, we will then follow this matter up. But the matter that relates to the trailers, it's a matter that we have profiled, and I think last time we appeared before the portfolio committee, we have raised this matter of the lack of impoundment facilities in the country. And Chair, you'll recall that the Chair requested us to profile that and said so that Chair or the portfolio committee should engage with Treasury in terms of the matter that relates to the impoundment facilities. To that extent, the trailers and the number of fatalities or accidents that have been caused by overloaded trailers, we zoom into such issues, but there's a problem that we are encountered with not only even on trailers, but even on overloaded transport, particularly for those that are from the SADC countries who are called upon, if we're to impound those and ensure that they don't continue. In terms of the SADC protocols, we are then called upon to ensure that you give them facilities as well as alternative transport to continue. But that is the matter that we then raise to ensure that we have these impoundment facilities as well as way in motion. In collaboration with Sandrel, we're now having this way in motion to then identify the overloaded vehicle from the point of departure. But what we do together with the CBRTA, particularly from the departure point in most of the transport ranks, we go and deal with that issue from the departure point so that we stop the vehicle from moving. However, in between, there's nothing that happens because they then begin to deal with the overloading post the departure point, but it's a matter that we're dealing with from time to time. The border congestion, it is commending that the president has also proclaimed and given the matter of the national critical law enforcement that we're working with, that is dealing with the matter that relates to the border congestion. However, the border congestion in most of the times, it's not as a consequence of South African borders. It's on the other side, how they then allow and process the vehicles to that matter. But we have put a structure together with SAPS, defense, and everybody, as well as the border management committee to deal with these issues, which of course is now accounting to the National Logistic Crisis Committee, which has been established by the president to look in terms of those borders. We had subsequently had some meetings last week to finalize on some of the pertinent issues that are going to assist and ease the congestion within the borders. Then the second stanch of questions was the matter that relates to what does the race play in terms of this matter? Statistically, it is a phenomenon and a variable that needs to be done in terms of particularly when it gets to the issue of rolling out the issue of the communication and education. It begins to locate, because you have that data in terms who are the people that are mostly affected or not affected, as to prioritize the communication, prioritize education, prioritize engagement. But above all, we are, in terms of the international and national road safety processes, the race is a phenomenon that is also should be accounted for in those statistics and the fatalities that we're dealing with. So that plays a critical role. In terms of the numbers which we take in relation to the matters of the rounding up, naturally, statistically, the numbers are rounded up. It is not by default or intentionally that the numbers would not tally to the zero. We rounded up the numbers, avoiding to give the total, then the minute numbers that are on the other side, but has no impact in terms of those. And I think it's a norm in the statistics that we deal with. However, we take the point, but we'll then ensure that those numbers, minute as they are, will be given so that it gives a holistic picture, but it does not in any way affect the credibility as well as the assessment of the statistics. The matter that then deals with the matter of the budget in terms of the media, we as government, we cannot have so much budget to deal with these issues. It is on those bases when in the presentation we've partnered with a number of stakeholders, and to this extent, we amplified the partnership with FNB in terms of the communication and the media. So the partnership comes with them to fund this, because government does not have such resources that can fund everything to that matter. But as to the community radio stations and everybody, they've been taken into account in terms of these matters. We also prioritize the percentage and the number of listeners as per radio station. You'll then understand the Metro FM, SAFM, Ukhozi, Lisedi, Gwala, and all these other issues. It's profiled in terms of the listenership that comes in terms of those issues, and the media strategy is designed around those other issues. Yes, in terms of the provincial as well as the local level, they then prioritize the radio stations in the community within their span of control to ensure that communication reaches out to all and sundry. That will then link me up to the matter of the engagement of the traditional leadership. In terms of the road safety stakeholder management, the traditional leaders feature prominently from the local as well as the provincial level in terms of the preparation of the festive season as well as the Easter season and the 365 days of the road safety process. Every stakeholder is taken on board, inclusive of the traditional leaders in their areas, so that the road safety strategy and the implementation finds credence from the people that are in there. Equally so, with a faith-based organization, we leave no stone unturned in terms of every stakeholder. Even the churches have a role to play in terms of the education, communication, and beginning to award the public. Equally so, with the traditional leaders, in their imbizos, they are asked to deal with the issue of the road safety and the carnages, so that we are all enjoying to deal with the education and communication of the members. The issue of the overhead bridges, it is critical. Let's then take the matter that relates to the entry, particularly the bridge at Force. The development and the creation and the establishment of the overhead precedes the growth of the development. At the time when the bridge was made, the communication, that bridge was at the center or at the entryway it allows the people. But the progressive growth of the communities requires that we then begin to deal with certain issues. That's why we are raising the issue of spatial planning, which matter, it's the matter that falls squarely within the municipalities. And indeed, in terms of SPLUMA, which has then become the critical legislative, we're participating in those issues as well as the IDPs of the municipalities to make an input as to how the planning should be informed, and there should be a change of the mindset in terms of planning. That will also include the noon in the Western Cape. So we're beginning to say that the relationship and the engagement with the local municipalities, the provinces, and the national plays a critical role. However, there are issues that have become that have been overtaken by events, in the sense that those were already there, and the township has progressively and incrementally grown and surpassed what was initially dealt with, and therefore it becomes the municipalities as well as Central will be hamstrung to keep up with that province, with those issues, and therefore the alternative crossing methodologies are taken into account. But let me take some more time, because this accounts for the 44% of the pedestrians that are being killed on our roads. One, the human settlement that has been the factor that we're dealing with in terms of the human settlement is that planning does not precede the establishment of the township. We are reacting. We are following where people have already settled informally, so, and then put the settlement, which in that way also poses a problem in terms of its location. But the second matter that is very critical is the matter of the education. This education, Chairperson, links to the question that the chair has asked in terms of the role of the taverns and the bottle store. We have partnership with the associations of taverns as well as liquor outlets. It is on those bases that though they may not get to the issues, and we had a symposium or engagement even with the Uber drivers, the point is we are calling upon and engaging the tavern owners to ensure that they disarm their patrons in terms of the key. Disarm in the sense that if the person has come to imbibe, they keep onto the keys of the person so that the person engages with the Uber or any other means if it's driving. But the education is beginning to find a traction because some of the people are beginning now to plan when they are going to gym to say, I'm not going to be drinking. I'll be the one that is driving all of you. So that we are beginning to see. And that you then see from the reduction of some of the initiatives and the engagements that we're dealing with. But it's taking some time to find traction. The matter that relates to the Muloto Road. The Muloto Road, it's in terms of the top 24, it is number 2 in terms of the roads. It is on those bases that Sandra has begun to prioritize Muloto and the alternative routes that are dealing with Muloto because we know what the congestion is coming up upon Muloto. But Muloto has a number of variables because some of the variables that are dealing and finding expression in Muloto, it's in the space of public transport, that it cannot be that we rely mainly on the matter of the buses that becomes to be a chain within the Muloto issue. So that is what the department is currently dealing with in terms of accessing the issue of public transport initiatives. For now, yes, it is affecting in terms of us, but the deployment of the traffic officers, and we are the first to admit, and I think the honorable member, Hamsina, has then dealt with it. In terms of the 24/7 deployment, it is Western Cape and RTMC only that are deploying to that level. We had gone to all provincial cabinets to ensure that cabinets endorse on the implementation of the 24/7. What the provinces are doing currently is the engagement with the labor formations to ensure that in terms of the public service regulation, the power vests with the HODs to change the conditions of the employment of the traffic law enforcement. And to that extent, there's a precedence in terms of the case law, which was brought up by Western Cape, which confirmed the validity and the power that it's in terms of the Public Service Act. And to that extent, once we win the battle of the 24/7, it will mitigate drastically on the number of issues. However, it's not going to deal with the shortage of the traffic officers. The shortage of the traffic officers in the country, we're sitting with plus minus 22,000 traffic or 25,000 traffic officers, when we should be sitting with plus or minus 70,000 traffic officers, taking the exponential growth of the motor vehicles as well as the people that acquires the driver's license. The new services online, we have dealt with the issue of the new services. The new services that we are referring to is the introduction of the online services. It is actually happening, and it's beginning to decisively impact on the queues that are always in our DLTCs. This partnership of the online includes, amongst others, the stakeholders like the banks that have given us the gateway, and people are now beginning to renew their driver's licenses and their vehicle licenses at the comfort of their home with less cost because they're no longer expected to go to the DLTC and incur a transport fee as well as petrol and so. The consumption of alcohol What is our advice? The advice in the reality of the consumption of alcohol, it is in the messaging that we deal with and the education that don't drink and drive. But if you are going to drink, make yourself a favor, designate a driver that is going to be responsible for the driving so that you don't sit behind the steering wheel. We had initiated a process where, as the RTMC and the traffic law enforcement were of the view that there needs to be a change and the reclassification of the Criminal Procedure Act in terms of the schedule of the drunken driving to be apprehended, either to be classified as Schedule 5 and Schedule 6. That was going to serve as a deterrent in terms of the people that are in there. That process, we have resuscitated it. We dealt with it in 2014, 2015. We could not win the battle, but we are resuscitating the discussions with the Department of Justice on the basis of the reclassification of that code. Do we have enough traffic vehicles? The answer is no. If you look in terms of the resources that are aligned to the provinces as well as ourselves, in fact, we need to get to the fact that the provinces solely rely on the resources from the licensing of the motor vehicles and related services. It has taken this country more than 14 years since last the issue of the licensing was increased. To that extent, there's less that goes to the road infrastructure as well as the licensing of and ensuring that tools of trade are always available. But the partnership with Kia has also assisted. That's what we are now beginning to extend to the private sector. For this festive season and as well as the Easter, they then assist us with some of the vehicles that they might not be sufficient in dealing with them. But
as we sum up, advocate.
Okay. I think I've touched on the number of Chair, except the issue of intelligence and law enforcement, as well as intelligent utilization of the IT within the law enforcement. That we have dealt with the body cameras, the issue of ANVRs, and all these other issues are the matters that we are beginning to deal with. Even the Sandrel equipment has assisted us to this law. I think I've answered most of them.
No, you have elaborately so. Advocate Msebi, if you may, just in a 2 minutes, just to respond. I think you have omitted this. I think it's because you are trying to be elaborate as possible. Honorable Mabena also asked a question. What has been the department and RTMC budgeted for from the taxpayers' money? As much as we appreciate the partnership with the FNB, but our interest as members of parliament, which also oversight and ensure that the monies of the taxpayers are used appropriately. There has been an alleged RTMC organized prayer which amounted to 11 million. If you may, but also noting that some of the questions that need detailed responses, you should do them in writing. But I don't want you to shortchange you in terms of this one. If you can just talk to it in 2 minutes' time, we can highly appreciate that, Advocate Msibi.
Chair, I think the department is in a better position to answer. The prayer is not budgeted for by RTMC.
Oh, okay. Back to the sender, which is the department. Dade Shabisa, if you may, on this one, and the alleged 11 million for the prayer.
I think what we do, Honorable Chair, we will go back and give you the full detail as to what has happened and so forth and so that we can give you in 7 days' time. We'll respond in writing like we normally do, because we would like to consult the communication department and the ministry and everybody else so that we can see what are the figures and what is the prayer about and all that. So I think give us enough time, Chair, just five working days. We'll come back. We'll definitely come back to you with the answer. Yes.
And that working days also must give us a scientific value add, whatever amount that would have been budgeted, because the actual question is that for December, January festive season plan, is it budgeted for and how much is it? So I guess you will also give us that response. But
yes,
it would be very appropriate that for 2023-24 budget, how much have we budgeted for? Roughly estimation, because it will be estimations.
Okay.
To implement the plan that you are presenting to us.
Okay, no, that's fine. We'll talk about that.
You can't talk about it. I'm asking you now and here that 2023-24 December, January festive season plan, how much have we budgeted for as the department?
What we have done, we do assign our budgets to the entities, then we collaborate and coordinate. So those budgets, legal budgets that are from RTMC, from CBRTA, from SANRAL, from RTIA, and from RAF, we'll pull them together and see how much we'll put together. Okay. Yeah, that is what I was talking about, Chair. Thank you.
Oh, okay. That's fair that you explain that way, because we are not just responding to the portfolio committee, also it's responding to the taxpayers, which is South Africans. So very important that you become explicit. Other than that, honorable members, let's agree that Mr. Hlabisa, representing the DOT, we will rally around the responses from various role players and give us a very detailed, explicit response to some of the questions that are detailed, wanted to be very specific in terms of the responses. And I guess with that, we're not going to hope, but ensure that the plan and all involved stakeholders to ensure that the lives of South Africans are being saved, even our visitors during this festive season, having borrowed the lessons from the previous years, will be saved. And also the figures sometime in February that we'll receive will be better and lesser than the previous years, as it were, because one life too many to lose as South Africans. Other than that, thank you very much, Mr. Hlabisa and your team, and Advocate Team CB, and your team as well. And if there are any other questions, I will encourage members also through Ms. Valerie, just to communicate and send them through, so that also we are clear in terms of the plan, and also what can we also say to our constituencies in terms of the plans that has been presented to us. With that, let's thank the DOT family, and you are at liberty to stay on the platform, or you can recuse yourself. We will now quickly move to the previous outstanding minutes, which will be the 31st of October, followed by the 7th of November, and the 16th, the 14th, and the 16th. And I will request Ms. V just to flag them and ensure that in terms of attendance and approaches are recorded accordingly, as we would have registered in the said meetings. Mr. Hansinga, I can see your smiling face ever. You're trying to upload the minutes. And we take the minutes as read, because we would have received them on time, and we recall that some of the minutes last week on Friday, we banked them for today's meeting. If while Advocate Nell is still trying to fly to them, Ms. V, if you can just walk us through the minutes of the 31st of October, so that we save time. I don't know.
Chair, the minutes are being flighted. On the 31st, the committee dealt with the BRRR. Members might recall it was the first draft that was shared with the committee by Advocate Nell, but at the start of that meeting, Chair, you had a feedback session on what transpired during the MANCO. So those were the only two issues, the MANCO issues that you highlighted, and the BRRR first draft, as well as the draft legacy report that was shared with members in that meeting.
Okay, honorable members, if you can go to your gadget and look at those minutes, page 1, which deals with the housekeeping matters in terms of attendance and apologies. There are no hands. That will be followed by this subject matter of the day. And it captures also our views in terms of the presentation. And finally, the recommendation of the committee, which was the first sitting. So we agreed that we'll adjourn, and then in our next meeting, then we'll complete the BRRR report. With that, honourable members, are the minutes tabled for your good self for consideration? May we get the mover and the seconder? Notwithstanding now, they are flighted. Let me see by show of hands on the platform or the voice. Any mover and the seconder?
Chairperson, Honourable MacDonald moves for the adoption of the minutes.
Thank you, Honourable McD. Any seconder to Honourable McD's motion?
Chairperson, I've raised my hand.
It's Honourable Ra.
Yes. Chairperson, thank you very much. I would like to second Honourable MacDonald, but I also indicate that there are matters that were raised in the minutes that needs attention. I don't know if they have been implemented.
Okay, let's agree, Honourable Ra, that we adopt the minutes. Then in our next meeting, because the advocate Nell would not have populated in our dashboard if they are not adopted. So they will be populated to the dashboard. You'll recall that I did request that time to time we also visit our dashboard. And I think Honourable Miss Advocate Nell, she's taking note of that in support to our work as the committee. The minutes are adopted accordingly. Let's move to the minutes of the 7th of November. It can be flighted. Advocate, okay. I guess, do you still want to come back on a wrap?
No, I have read, it's just because I have read the minutes, so I was raising my hand just to move for the adoption of the minutes.
Okay. No, that's fine. Of the 31st. Now we're going to the 7th of November. Let's go to page 1. You want to do this honors, Miss V? Because you've already started.
Yes. On the 7th, members will recall the committee had the briefing by AGSA on the annual report of the department. The department then briefed the committee on its annual report, followed by the road accident fund. The committee did not deal with any outstanding minutes on that day, and the outcome of those discussions, Chair, it will indicate at the bottom, those are included in the BRRR report. All the observations and recommendations.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. V. Honourable members, here are the minutes of the 7th of November for our consideration. Any mover and a seconder? Honourable Ra.
Honourable Chairperson, I move for the adoption of the minutes.
Thank you, Honourable Ra. Honourable, any seconder, if I may, Chair?
Honourable MacDonald, seconds, Chairs.
Thanks, Honourable. There was another voice without suppressing anyone.
Yes, Chair. Thanks. That's yes, that was my
Honourable Mapena.
Can we go up on the minutes? There's something that I just understanding.
On the housekeeping matters.
No. Can we just on the AG's?
Okay, let's go down then.
Yes.
Slowly now.
Yes. Thanks, Chair. I think on the issue where it says member propose a meeting with the portfolio committee on police to discuss this matter, I just want to check to flag. Has this been part of the matters arising in terms of this? And I think maybe perhaps maybe we can broaden the scope in terms of. I know that this is the minutes and we're dealing with something that is posed, but maybe just for the benefit of the portfolio committee, maybe. Okay, Mara, this might be difficult because those ones have closed meetings. I was thinking the guys from the intelligence cluster. I don't know.
No, okay. What you are saying, Honorable Mabena, is that let's adopt the minutes as they have been seconded and moved. But when we are looking at the dashboard, allow us then next week when we meet also Advocate Nell, just let's just reflect on the dashboard for the month of November to date, which will capture what you want to say now, not in the minutes, okay? Thank you very much. I can see you are noting. The minutes of the 7th of November have been adopted accordingly. Let's go to the 14th of November, if we may, Advocate Nell.
Chair, on the 14th, that was last week, the committee considered the second draft of the BRRR report, and the other agenda item was the consideration of minutes, but due to time constraint, the committee could not attend to that. Again, Chair, the observations and the recommendations of that meeting, the discussions, was very adequately and included in the amendments that Advocate Nell would have affected as members were making their comments and input last week. That was for the 14th.
Okay, thanks, Ms. V. Honourable members, here are the minutes of the 14th, and I've gone through them. Although half of better part of the meeting I was out, but I'm happy with them. And let's get to the mover and the seconder. Honorable McD, followed by Honorable Ra.
Chairperson, as I was in attendance of this meeting, I move for the adoption of the minutes as a true reflection. Thank you, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much, Honorable McD. May we honor Ra?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I second Honorable McD in adopting the minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much, honorable members. The minutes are adopted accordingly. Now is the one that I said I only state the first part of the meeting. And on this one, let me also appreciate you, honorable members, for allowing Honorable Ramadwa to chair the meeting, because all the time the rules of the portfolio committee applies at any given time in the absence of the chair. It's not automatic that the chair just identify a person. I highly appreciate your understanding on that meeting of Friday. Here are the minutes of the 16th, and I will recognize Honorable Ra. Your hand is up, ma'am.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I move for the adoption of these minutes.
Okay. Ms. V, I didn't call you because here it was a continuation which we've agreed on, and the report was adopted accordingly. That's why I didn't call you, just to walk us through the summative minutes. With that, mover, may I get the seconder?
Honorable MacDonald, seconds, Chair. Thank you.
And you were present. Thank you very much, honorable members. That brings us to the end of our meeting. Safe to say, in our next meeting, which will do the back office administrative processes, is that we will include the dashboard part of it to cover the issues that has been raised by Honorable Mabena and Honorable Ramadwa, as well as but other than that, we'll do the back office, Ms. V, so that also we insert that, so that we are clear in terms of what will be dealing with. And with that having said, let me thank all members, your good self, even for the process that we walked through on the B2R. It was quite a robust and very healthy oversight work. And we wish all the best in terms of the issues that we would have raised, that the department will also endeavor to implement them as expected by the electorate or South Africans, because we're not representing ourselves, we're representing the South Africans. And thanks once more, and the meeting stands adjourned, honorable members and colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. 026726.
When I'm a banner, we are lapisa.